25, the populace had learned to survive as citizens of somebody else's country. So the popular culture that was in effect when I was growing up was to be independent. I mean, in my village, the people made their own clothes, they raised their own food stocks, and at the same time they went off somewhere else to work if they needed to. I believe and I hope that that will make a comeback because it's only one generation removed, and that the country will be in front of the curve because of the disaster that's happening now. Because I think that Greece is a microcosm for what's going to happen all over the world over the next 10 years.
Well, by saying that, you've actually answered one of my next questions, but I'll ask it anyway in context. Do you see the movement of bringing back the ancient Greek martial arts tradition and lineage as perhaps a vital spark towards the balance for the Greek people as a whole, given as a battle for sovereignty and justice has been placed in your financial and cultural lap? And finally, is there a connection between the Greek people and world karma?
Well, to answer your last question first, I think all of us have something to do with world karma.
Yes.
Not only the Greeks, but the Norwegians and the Chinese and the Australians and the citizens of Lagos. We're all part of the world and of the planet, so every one of us is just as important as everybody else. Do I think that Greek martial arts coming back? First of all, I don't believe that the martial arts of ancient Greece have made a comeback. There are some federations out there that are basically trying to call a very bad karate as Greek martial arts, but if you look at the historic depictions of the ancient martial arts, they really have nothing to do one with the other. Do I believe that it's a matter of national pride? Well, you have to look at martial arts have always been politically connected and politically motivated. I mean, look at the creation of judo, look at the creation of karate, look at the creation, and when I say creation, I mean the formal declaration of same. I don't mean about the roots or how. Look at taekwondo, or all these arts were instituted after World War II, basically and not judo, of course. Judo was a long time before that. To try to enhance the self-prestige and the internal empowerment of the populace, which had just suffered through terrible, terrible things. But you have to be very careful about how you look at these things from a modern-day context and what they really were. I mean, the Greeks had no word for martial arts other than martial arts. I mean, there was no system of it. In fact, there were dramatists that used to mock martial arts in their plays, and generals that thought that athletes did not make good soldiers. But what needs to come back from ancient Greece are thesmic values in our system of government and democracy that have been forgotten, and political consequence and political acceptance of one's actions. That is something that was very much a part of democracy when it was created. I mean, you're familiar with the English word idiot, of course.
Yes.
Its root comes from the Greek word idiotis. And idiotis is just a private person who was not a demotis. In other words, he wouldn't involve himself in common affairs. A demotis was a citizen who involved himself in common affairs, and hence we have democracy, which is the the rule of the demos, of the people, if you will. But when democracy was instituted, everybody would come out and state their own opinion, or had the opportunity to do so. In fact, civic responsibility was very much a part of the culture. I mean, there was no professional army. You know, every Greek citizen had his spear and shield at home, and you know, so it's, if you want to see what's closest to how I envision ancient Greek democracy, and or perhaps even the ideals of the founding fathers of the United States, look at Switzerland today, where you have the system of cantons that's even further subdivided by the system of municipalities within each canton. And there is no standing army. You have a militia where every Swiss is a citizen, and you know, somehow they've managed to get 3 different nationalities to get along, because you have Italians, you have the French, and so the system itself, the principles that make the system are so powerful that the cultural differences can be waved aside. And I personally believe that's how, for example, the United States used to be, and that's where we need to return to. But in order for that to happen, you have to see a lot less YouTube, a lot less Facebook, a lot. I mean, I read on the internet, of course, the other day that Borders was closing, and I thought to myself, my God, when I was a young man in the 80s in the U.S., I used to spend hours and hours in Borders, you know, just, or in bookstores in general, just going around trying to find things to read. And apparently people aren't interested in reading anymore.
Yes, unfortunately. That's true. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate your answer very much.
My pleasure.
Kostas, Jodo is the will of universe, and my understanding is it cannot be changed. My understanding is karma can be changed. For people that have mastered the power, like Lim, could they theoretically subvert their karma or transfer it to others? Some researchers have speculated this is being done today and say that is why the elite are using symbology in architecture and in movies to offload their karmic debt to others. I am curious if you think karma can be transferred to others in this way.
I think that the transfer of karma is at best a postponement. I mean, how do you transfer a debt? At the end of the day, it's going to come back to you. And for example, that's what happened to the Greek economy, and hopefully won't happen to the U.S. economy over the next few weeks. Debts don't go away. You can postpone paying them, but at some point, you know, somebody's going to send the bookies to look for you.
So I guess the essence was, could you unwittingly give your karma, negative karma, to somebody else, possibly?
Unwittingly? No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. But again, that's just my opinion. I think karma is a result of our intentions and actions. So one could argue that, you know, if I hit somebody with my car while looking the other way, it wasn't my intention to hit him. But then again, the question arises, why was I looking the other way? So am I not equally responsible for what I did, regardless of not whether I had intention to do so?
Yep, thank you. The next question is from Uranus again.
Kostas, you've written in your blog, please stop hitting the snooze button, that it is too late, that the plan did not work. I assume that the plan was to awaken people to the limits of growth, to counterbalance this insatiable growth pattern pumped out by the powers that be in their greed, which you wrote about in the last chapter of your book, which I found the best chapter of your book, by the way.
Thank you.
Good. I'm curious about how you see our karma working out in a specific aspect. If many people are so mind manipulated or socially engineered by the power that be that they unfortunately cannot wake up, does this differ karmically from those that are capable of waking up but take no actions in response to their karmic obligations?
I have a terrible problem answering questions on karma because, quite frankly, folks, I don't know. I mean, I'm not. And please let me make it clear that I don't know. I don't pretend to have any of the answers regarding dogma or any of the, let's say, more inherent truths within the universe. But if I were the ruling elite, and of course they exist, I would be more worried about what's happening to my own children. I mean, when George Orwell wrote his works, I think it was right after the Second World War, where he was already starting to see some of this manifestation when the sociologist C. Wright Mills wrote this in the 50s, where he most definitely saw it transpiring. At that time, there was still an elite in the sense that the financial elite felt that they also must be intellectual and cultural elite, either by osmosis or by learning or one way. Well, that's gone out the door. I mean, you can tell just by looking at the scions of the financial elite today, and I don't think there's a need to name names, but look at who's ruling who's in the government or was in the government in different countries around the world, and who are we. Who is in line to handle the board of directors for companies, and how were their academic scores, and what is their cultural record? I mean, if you look at, Washington in the States used to go to bed reading Voltaire's letters. Mm-hmm. Eisenhower used to read cowboy stories, great westerns. Maybe there were even. I wonder if George Bush could actually read Junior. So, and I mean, look at who we're considered. I mean, Paris Hilton. Come on. I mean, this is the scion of the Hilton fortune. Give me a break. So, if I was a member of the power elite, which I'm not, I would be more worried about what is happening vis-a-vis this situation to my own children or my own progeny and descendants than to what is happening overall. Because if the plan was to have a very powerful financial elite that's also an intellectual elite, that's also a cultural elite, well, that's failed. And, that's been tried many times throughout human history. One of my favorite examples and hopes and fears of what I hope will not happen in the next coming decades is what happened in Greece right after the Trojan War. Okay, if you look at circa 1200 BC, you have the rise of the Sea Peoples. Okay, and they destroyed everything. They destroyed Greece, they destroyed the Hittites, they destroyed the Canaanites, they reached all the way down to Egypt, and then the Egyptians were the only ones who survived because their theocracy was such an institution that they managed to repel these invaders at their border. That's an interesting concept because now we know who these Sea Peoples were. They were the Greeks, they were the Sicilians, they were the Sardinians, they were the Lycians. They were all the people who were living in these areas where there were great kings and a financial elite in the first place.